Thank you for having me. Before I start to give my testimony, I think other testimony was turned in by Attorney Terry Lodge. Did you all get a copy of his? And Attorney Pat Walker. Were these all distributed to all the members? How does it work?
Yeah, and we'll address that. Patricia Walker is written on link and is on the iPad. And
Terry Lodge had a few pages of training.
Terry, yes, and his is on there also. So members, you'll take notice of those written testimonies. So yes, we do have it. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name's Kathie Jones. I'm here to represent myself and my family in sustainable Medina County and Medina County residents. So good afternoon, Chairman Landis, Vice Chairman Hagan, I think she disappeared, and Member O'Brien and members of the House and Energy Committee. So I am here to ask you to oppose House Bill 393. The reason I'm opposing it, this proposal to legalize the use of so-called brine from oil and gas extractions as a de-icer and dust control chemical on Ohio's public roads and highways. It's brine and oil. Brine is oil and gas industry waste, and it contains dozens of toxic chemicals, radioactive waste. The effects of rain, stormy weather, winds will move these poisons from this toxic liquid radioactive waste not just onto the surface of waters, but also onto crops, sidewalks, parks, farms, water wells, playgrounds, your lawn, your own front steps, and yes, into your homes. When you open your windows in the spring and you want to get fresh air, the dust that has fallen, the toxins from that will be blowing into your homes also. This will affect the environment and humans and animals for generations to come. Science has already made it clear that so-called brine, which as you may well know, is toxic liquid radioactive waste, and it will emit radiation which embeds into bones and then causes cancer, cell damage, and recent studies have shown that it causes bone fractures, dementia, and diabetes. There is radium in each of the thousands of barrels of so-called brine tapped from every conventional oil and gas well. Passage of this bill will legalize widespread contamination and poisoning of land and water, and with them people, including your relatives and your children, the environment which we all live in. I would think that any of you, even if you aren't concerned about your constituents' welfare, you would be concerned about your families and future generations. Then those of you that have small children should be equally concerned. The children who you will be harming don't have a voice in this matter. We do, and we think you should want to protect them. The proposed Ohio Revised Code Section 1509.22C9 contains wording which forbids the ODNR from developing any uniform rules to identify or set any limits on what industry toxic chemical could be sprayed onto the roadways and become part of our water table. And you should also be aware that any treatment to try to remove the dangerous toxins before putting it on the roadways will not remove all the toxins. We are already going to be poisoned in Medina County by the Nexus compressor pipeline. We have tried for 3 years to have a community rights bill under our county charter, which we were denied access to put it on the ballot after over 18,000 people signed to get it validated to put it on the ballot. We in Medina County don't need any more poisons. We will be dying and sick enough from that. So who will be testing this toxic liquid radioactive waste for safety? The big gas and oil companies and those who will be making profits on selling this so-called brine? By legislating the use of this so-called brine, radioactive waste, you will be violating the Federal Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, and other provisions of the Federal Resources Recovery and Conservation Act. It is also a felony to knowingly place a poison, hazardous chemical, biological, or radioactive substance or any other harmful substance in a spring, well, reservoir, or public water supply if the person knows or has reason to know that the water may be ingested or used by another person. This is what you are looking at if anyone on the committee permits the passage of House Bill 393, because you are now aware of the damage that this so-called brine will cause to the public health, food, soil, and to the environment. It will kill us all. You may not intend to kill a specific person who ends up being injured or dead, but you know scientifically that you are introducing inherently poisonous materials into the environment and that people will end up injured or dead. So the intent to injure, only specific names of victims not yet known. Can you live with that? No one ever asked us if we wanted to be poisoned or have our children or environment poisoned, and we're not going to give you or anyone the right to do that to us now. It is wrong that the people in our communities have been stripped of their rights to decide if they even want this poison spread in their homes and communities. The real issue here seems to be about the state representing the best interest of the oil and gas drilling corporations and not giving a darn about the people and the environment. So lastly, my question to all of you is this. Are the political contributions from the oil and gas industry more important to you than the health and welfare of your constituents? We are watching, and time is up for the abuse of power. We the people have the power to undo the corporate culture that does not serve us well, and we will. I would hope that you would stand up and protect the health and safety of your constituents, which is what you were elected to do. Please, please vote no on House Bill 393. However, just one last thing. If any of you do decide that you are for this House Bill 393 and that's what you think is important to do, we in the different communities will make sure your electeds know, and we will do robocalls in every county and every community to let the constituents of yours know how you voted and that you voted opposed to saving their health and safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of insulting testimony, actually.
You know what? We're insulted that we have
Pardon me,
no rights.
if I could speak.
Ms. Jones, please
I'm sorry.
Representative, ask this question.
Actually, to impugn people's motives is very controversial, obviously very insulting. I know this is an emotional issue for everybody in this room, but we'd ask you to please show some restraint and some consideration also for the folks here who serve and frankly were elected by the people. So we just ask that courtesy of you, and we won't impugn your motives either. Okay?
I'm sorry if I offended anyone.
Yes. Question for you. So the concept of injection wells, is it safe to assume that you're opposed to that concept?
Yes.
Okay. Fossil fuels generally, are you in favor of any particular fossil fuels?
Solar, wind, green energy. We have put solar panels on our house, and that's how we're doing things. There's ways we can do things without poisoning the environment, and if you think it's good to poison your roadways in front of your house, then do it. But I don't think it's safe. I know people will be sick from it. This is radiation. It doesn't go away.
We did.
Just a point of organization here. Please direct any questions and answers through the chair. So Representative Thompson, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did have testimony last week from the Ohio Environmental Council, and we did not apparently have conclusive studies on the impact of the brine as it's being applied. Are you aware of a study that you could present that does document the damage of this brine?
I think that Pat Walker had some in her testimony that she submitted. I can give you some. I can send you some. I do have some. I don't have the links here.
Okay, Ms. Jones, if you'll send that to my office, to the chair's office, we'll make sure that it's distributed to the entire committee.
Okay. Yes, I will.
I'll look forward to that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Ms. Jones, just 1 second. Are there any other questions for the witness? Hearing none, thank you again for testifying today.
Thank you.